Hey guys, Brian delivers you the goods here. I'm returning to you this afternoon, close to late afternoon, pretty soon, for this premiere video, and I hope you will enjoy this premiere video for Hayley Williams' Ego Death at a Bachelorette Party that I wanted to review for you guys. It comes out September 10th, this review, so hopefully you will enjoy it, and let's get started with the 18 tracks I listened to for this over 59.5-minute album. So let's dive into this review. Now it starts with Ice in My OJ, which is a above decent track. I mean, this track wasn't terrible for the first verse and the chorus, but it's when the second verse comes in, Ice in My OJ, I'm a cold-hearted bitch, or whatever. It's like, what are these lyrics trying to simplify, in a way? It doesn't really add enough to make me interested in the track when lyrics like that get thrown into the song. And it's like, okay, this track is not the best 2 minute and 11-second track, but it's solid, so 4.25 out of 5. Glum is the worst song on the record. I don't like her auto-tune vocals in this track, where she has electronic vocals coming in, Hayley Williams, and it does not sound good at all. The rest of the track did okay, but it's just, this wasn't a good track because of the electronic auto-tune vocals that don't mix very well with this song. It just makes me cringe when I hear that shit. So, 2.75 out of 5. Glum is my least favorite track on the record. Kill Me is actually a good song. This is where the record starts progressing in a more solid direction, and that I can give praise for. I think Kill Me had good vocals from Hayley Williams, and overall, it's not the best song, but it's not the worst track. It's not like the last song. So 4.5 out of 5 for Kill Me. Then we get to Whim, which actually was a favorite song of mine. I really like the chorus. Shines a lot. The melody is really strong, and overall, Hayley Williams' vocal potential is very strong in this. So I'm really enjoying this overall. So 4.75 out of 5. Mirtazapine, I believe is how you pronounce it. Uh, so basically, Mirtazapine or something like that. I think this track did very well for the execution. And overall, with the melody, with the verses and chorus coming in and shining very well, this track was very catchy from time to time, but it was a very solid track that I can get on board with. So 4.75 out of 5. Disappearing Man is a pretty good song in its own way. Really enjoyed this one, so another 4.75 out of 5. Hayley Williams' vocal delivery is fairly strong in this, and the verses and chorus are the highlight of this track, so I really dig this track. Love Me Different is gonna get a 4.5 out of 5. The last song is getting a 4.75 out of 5 for Disappearing Man. Now to continue. Love Me Different is a good song in its own way. I think with this track, there were some moments that I had some issues with the melody, but not to the extent where I hate it that much. I think it's a fairly good song in its own way. So 4.5 out of 5. Hayley Williams' vocals shine from time to time, but there are some execution flaws with her vocals from time to time. I don't know if it syncs well, but with the execution, it's alright. 4.5 out of 5. Brotherly Hate had a weird, corny melody, but it actually had a tune to it in its own way. I'd give it a 4.5 out of 5 for this one. Not the worst track, but not the best track, but it's one of the highlights off this record. So, it's got a weird, upbeat melody, and it sounds a little corny at times, but in its own way, Hayley Williams makes it work with the execution. 4.5 out of 5. Negative Self-Talk is a pretty good song in its own way. I like the melody. The whole melodic vibe to it is pretty haunting for sure. It has a very haunting melody, and it just, with how Hayley Williams sings it, it's definitely a very melodic track that you can get on board with and pretty much like. So 4.75 out of 5. Ego Death at a Bachelorette Party, the title track, is fairly solid. I'd give it a 4.5 out of 5 for this one too. I think with how Hayley Williams sings it from time to time, there's some moments where I like it, moments where I think it's alright. It's mostly the verses are solid, but overall, the chorus is the strong aspect of the track. So 4.5 out of 5. Then we get to Hard. This one was a solid track too in its own way. I'd give it a 4.5 out of 5. I think Hayley Williams' vocal potential in this is fairly strong in its own way. There are some execution flaws as you go through the track. With the melody structure and the production and mixing has its tendencies to sound alright, but it's the repetition with her vocals that kind of get a little just So 4.5 out of 5. Discovery Channel has a cover track. I almost said corner track by mistake. Cover song of that Monkeys band or whatever their name was. The guy is dressed up in monkey outfits. Yeah, it was fucking weird. The You and Me Baby Ain't Nothing But Mammals, so let's do it like they do on the Discovery Channel. So, a solid cover. It's probably better than the original track. But the original track had some melodies that sounded alright, but in execution, this track was solid. So 4.5 out of 5. True Believer is a pretty good song in its own way. I think with this track, I like Hayley Williams' vocals in this one. And overall, with the melody and execution, this track did fairly well, so pretty good song. 4.75 out of 5. Then we get to the 14th track on the record, Zissou. This one was a pretty good one too. Really like this one for how it sounds. I'd give it a 4.75 out of 5. The melody's on point. Overall, with the execution, this was a highlight of a track. So, I really dig it. Dream Girl and Shibuya is a pretty good song in its own way. I'd give it a 4.75 out of 5 for this one. I think with how Hayley Williams' vocal potential sounds, it's fairly strong and it works with the execution, so I'm really digging it from time to time with her vocals and just how the melody is sounding. So, pretty strong track. 4.75 out of 5. Blood Bros is a good song in its own way. The chorus is not my favorite highlight of this track, but the verses are fairly solid and make it sound fairly fresh of a track. It almost sounds like the Brotherly Hate track, but it's not like that. It's a different kind of melody, but it's overall alright. 4.5 out of 5. I Won't Quit on You is a good song for the second to last track for the record. And overall, it does well with the execution from time to time. So, 4.5 out of 5 for this track. And Hayley Williams' vocal potential is fairly solid in this. And overall, the melody sounds alright. There's a little bit of an execution flaw with how it sounds overall, but it overall works in its own way. Parachute is the closing track to the record, the 18th song on the record, and it's overall a pretty good track. As the closing track, I do dig this. So, I really enjoyed this track, 4.75 out of 5. I think Hayley Williams' vocals in the verses and choruses are very strong. The bridge is fairly solid, but overall with the execution, it's a nice way to end the record. 4.75 out of 5. So overall, production, mixing, and execution-wise, I think Hayley Williams' third studio album, Ego Death at a Bachelorette Party, is a fairly average record. It's not going to be coming down as one of the best albums of the year, even though it's got a lot of good reception behind it. Me personally, I think it's average. I don't think it's the worst record I've heard of 2025, but there are some execution moments with this track. But overall, in the execution, it's fairly solid. Give me a second, I gotta pause the video. Sorry about that, guys. Had to pause the video for a moment. My mom needed my assistance. I'm gonna be helping her out in a second, but overall, yeah, from what I listened to with Ego Death at a Bachelorette Party, it's a solid follow-up to the... give me a second, I gotta pause the video. Hey, I'm sorry for pausing again, guys. My dog was barking at something, and I'm probably gonna have to wrap this review up right now. But for a score for me, for Hayley Williams' Ego Death at a Bachelor Party, to get back to it, I'm giving it a 7.5 out of 10. Average listen, it's not too bad. The only song I had an issue with was Glum, and that was the one that was my most disappointing track of the record because of the auto-tune vocals of how Hayley Williams was singing it. It was produced fairly poorly, very poorly, and I just didn't like that aspect of the track. Overall, with the execution of the record, it's not a bad record. It's listenable for sure, and it's not the worst almost hour of a listen. So you're in for an hour of a listen, or almost an hour of a listen, a little over 59 minutes and 30 seconds. It's like 59 minutes and 41 seconds, but overall with the execution of this record, played its cards right. Hayley Williams did a solid job with how it sounded, but with Glum, it wasn't one of my favorites. So that was the only disappointing aspect of the record, but everything else was fairly solid to pretty good. So 7.5 out of 10 for Hayley Williams' Ego Death at a Bachelorette Party. Hope you enjoyed this premiere video for this album review. I'm sorry for pausing the video a couple times. My dog was barking, my mom was needing my help for something, so I'm going to go help her now. And with that being said, thanks for watching this album review this afternoon.